Well, hello, everybody. I'm Joe Valewski, a naturalist here at Wolf Ridge, and the pictures that you're seeing right now are pictures that I've taken over the past couple weeks. And so you can see there was a snake. There was literally a snake. This was mid-November, and we got a snake crawling around. That unseasonably warm, and a few days before that, we had snow on the ground. How different! How different. Anyway, these pictures are pictures that I've taken over the past couple weeks. I tell you, I think they had nearly 200 bald eagles that flew by Hawk Ridge in Duluth. And so we got to see a bunch of them. Oh, this is beautiful. Anybody who's come up here, they know this time of year as well is a great time of year to watch the birds migrating by. Our naturalists were out on an adventure recently. Oh, and Meredith, I was telling you about driving to Duluth yesterday and such a beautiful sunrise. It's fun to see these pictures and see that November doesn't always look the same. Oh, we were up in Isabella and the lakes are already frozen. So for those of you who are looking for frozen lakes, go up to Isabella, and Wolf Lake is not frozen yet, even though it looks like maybe it should be in this picture. And we don't have much snow. This is more what it looks like. It's sun and warmth around here the past few days. But these pictures are pictures that I took over the past few weeks just to give you a sense of what it looks like up here and what might be crawling around through the leaf litter. Hopefully not today. Hopefully the snake went to sleep. But I just wanted to share a few pictures before we get started here. I know that Pete is here as well. So I'm going to stop my sharing and welcome him into this as well.
Hello, everyone. This is Peter Smerud, the Executive Director here at Wolf Ridge, and I believe I know everyone on the screen here. Lindsay Arthur, I see, Shell Smith, our current board chair. There's just a number of people here. John Preem, our recent board chair, and a few others. I'd love to have people turn on their cameras if they're willing, just to be able to see, because sometimes I don't know what the initials may include. But I'll go for a couple more minutes and then we'll get started into our State of the Ridge and our little fireside chat. I am truly here up at Wolf Ridge. I'm in the fireplace room at the office that folks know, that beautiful arched room that faces south. One of our original buildings here at Wolf Ridge. I've got a nice fire and a cold November evening with the wind blowing outside. It's a beautiful time to be up north. It's a quiet week at Wolf Ridge right now. Thanksgiving week always introduces a little bit more quiet around campus, but it has been considerably full the last few weeks. Lots of schools here, weekend groups. We hosted the Minnesota Naturalists Association conference here a few weeks ago. We had a school from St. Paul, Murray Middle School, longtime attending school, that was here over the weekend not long ago. So it's been a very busy October, November, which is exactly what this place should be. That I did want to say welcome, because this is our first time doing a little State of the Ridge fireside chat into an exclusive group here this evening of loyal supporters. And thank you, Joe, for the great photos that are all recent, that if you were joining us again, didn't hear his intro, they're all within the last couple of weeks. Also, Meredith St. Pierre, our development director, is on camera and with us tonight, just waving her hands. That what I would like to do is to do a little bit of updates for you, and that I'll go over a variety of things happening at Wolf Ridge and ask all of our guests tonight, share your questions in the chat if you're familiar with that technology and able to do that, and or at the end of my little talk and my State of the Ridge update, that we'll have a chance for some Q&A this evening, and anticipating to go for about 45 minutes total. And so I really am grateful to this exclusive group. These are our most generous donors. They're members of the Leaders of the Pack, our folks that have us in their estate plans, as well as some current board members, some past board members, some past life members, folks like that are joining us here this evening. And so I want to welcome all of you, really heartfelt, from truly from here at Wolf Ridge, and on behalf of all the staff and current board at Wolf Ridge. And Meredith, I should just get rolling, shouldn't I? Yes, I'm getting the nod, yes. I think the way to really kick this off is the question I get all the time is, Pete, how's it going? Are the kids back? How many kids are back? And we have a big year of getting our programs back into full operation. That we are at about 80% of our way back to our pre-pandemic numbers in our K-12 program. And so as you read that, we're not, I'll be honest, we're not back to the full numbers that we were pre-COVID. And yet, like many, we've had challenges of getting staffing and things like that. And yet right now we are in full operation. And as you heard me reference, we've been rolling with a lot of kids this fall and a full load of student naturalists, our grad students. We had a great summer camp. We were at about 60% of our youth camp and wilderness trips this past summer. And yet our family programs were booming this past summer, doing more than we often do here or we were doing pre-pandemic. The family programs are absolutely booming this summer. This past summer, we were back at our Lake Superior field station for the first time. And so as you may recall, we acquired 68 acres of land down on Lake Superior. And we had both our summer camp programs as well as our family programs down there this summer, learning at that shoreline about that big lake and some of the unique spaces and habitats that supports along this really rugged and gorgeous shoreline of the lake. And that with students down there, it is also helping to boost our curriculum in new and different ways, and also that we're boosting our programs with significant scholarship support. I mentioned our grad students that last year we were a little bit shy in the numbers we'd like to see. This year we're at a full slate of graduate students, and they are here. That's a great group. They're really diverse in the sense of geography from all over the country. And that's quite exciting for us. And that we are now gearing up towards summer. And last summer, some of our programs were low because we also just were a little low on summer staff. I'll talk more about that later. That's something you can do to help us. I hope you get the sense that we are trending in very good ways. All areas we are steadily increasing and getting back to full status and operations at Wolf Ridge. For example, we currently have 1,000 more kids reserved for school programs booked with schools planning to attend than we had last year. We're trending to higher and higher numbers. We also have tremendous scholarship assets. I think that is a fairly, I've been here a long time. We have never had such scholarship assets, which is opening the doors for lots of new schools to come and experience Wolf Ridge. We are breaking down those barriers for access, and it's working. For example, for the first time, we had the tribal school from Red Lake that came, and the kids were here just a few weeks ago from Red Lake, Minnesota, and numbers of other new schools are joining us. And I think it's really important because as we talk with teachers, we learn how incredibly important an experience like Wolf Ridge is to children recovering from some of the impacts of the pandemic, that it really does help address issues and challenges that kids are facing of regression, of social initiative, some academics, some excitement about school, and the level of engagement we have here where kids are really turned on by learning and they get excited about it. The teachers we talk with give us comments such as, this is the most important thing we can do for our kids, is to put them in an experience like this. That it's now interesting is we're getting kids who were early elementary that are now coming to us, and we can see that impact as the kids are aging, and we talk with them and hear about their experiences in the ropes course and how those activities are changing them in a really positive way. That if you walk around campus, not only are you going to see lots of children, but you're going to also begin to see a tremendous amount of new work that we're doing. And some of it's repair work. As you can imagine, during the few years of COVID, we took a bit of a backseat to some priorities for taking care of some of the facilities as we were just keeping the place open and getting ready for when we could return full. And yet around the facility, there are projects going all over the place right now. The most notable one that is just up in the screen now, the Science Center is getting re-roofed. Picata Science Center, named for Jack and Gina Picata, was in need. We had some issues up there. We had a few leaks, and the shingles and the age was just at that point, it needed replacement. Not only are we replacing it, but we're replacing it with steel. And we're doing so in a manner where we've got a roof that's going to last 100 years up there compared to one that lasted only a bit over 20. That move of resilience is going to pay dividends for Wolf Ridge long into the future. And not only is it getting re-roofed, there's tremendous energy improvements that we're making in sealing the envelope, increasing insulation, reducing leakage. It's much more than just the roof. It's really kind of a reboot in many ways of that building and its energy efficiencies that's going to help us again for decades to come. And the beauty of this is a big project. 100% of this was paid by donors that supported Wolf Ridge. Not one penny of a project like this is being paid by the students who have enrolled to come here. Not one penny. The Donald Nelson Estate, the Jackie Methune Estate, the Lloyd K. Johnson Foundation, Nancy Schultz, and John Ackfeld were the team that came together to make a really critical project happen for us, and not to shoulder that on the kids that are selling calendars or things like that to come here. We've been adding and repairing some backup power generation with support from Kohler generators. Down at the farm, we've done some hoop house upgrades. We have some new tools. We have an addition of a timber-framed new roofed area for an outdoor wash station. And as I hope you're following, Meredith is doing a great job of keeping the photos linked to my storyline. That this timber frame is going to be a really significant addition to improve outdoor space and really workspace for students to help in the process of planting, gathering, in this case, particularly washing vegetables as they prepare them for coming up the hill to the dining hall. And that what's also kind of cool is that was an all-women's timber framing course that we see that photo of. It was an all-women's course teaching contracting and construction skills through the art of timber framing or post and beam construction. All-women's course taught by one of our grad student alums. Jenna Pollard was the instructor for that course, and that timber frame is now up with roof, and the farm will benefit from that for years to come. In addition, we have a new solar array going in at the Science Center. That the snow we had this past winter was monumental, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But that building is our premier building for classrooms. The Piccata Science Center is where every child goes. It's where evening programs are, if we host conferences, things like that. And the new PV array going in will actually now make that building 25% net positive, meaning that it will produce 25% more fossil fuel-free renewable energy than it consumes. That's not in heating, that's in the domestic electric use. We're making some repairs to the East Storm roof for the Summit Lodge that had some damage due to the winter. And as I mentioned, last winter was a whopper. It was a record setter, actually, as noted by awards we received from the National Weather Service, that we had over 13 feet of snow. That set our record back from the mid-90s. And here we see Steve Godey from the National Weather Service presenting us with an award that was twofold. It was both a certificate from the federal government, as we have served now for 30 years as the National Weather Service cooperator station, meaning that we are gathering data, we are helping advance the science and understanding of weather and weather systems and changes of climate in northeastern Minnesota, particularly with focus to Lake Superior. So they were bestowing that thank you, so to speak, an acknowledgement certificate, but also an award for over 13 feet of snow. And what was kind of fun is just recently, Joe's on with me tonight, that Joe and Lori and I are now some of the older staff at Wolf Ridge. And the photo you're looking at, you can see going left to right, Lori Valesky, myself, Pete Smerud, and then on the other side to the right is Joe Valesky. The two in the middle, in the red and black plaid and the black coat, are parent chaperones who are here with Prior Lake Savage Schools. They're here as parent chaperones, and in 1991, at the infamous Halloween blizzard of 91, they were fifth graders at Wolf Ridge. Pretty cool. Joe and Lori and I were all here working at the 1991 Halloween blizzard. So the five of us who were all here together weathering that epic event of 1991 gathered for a photo as Prior Lake Savage, one of our premier school partners, still is coming, brings every one of the fifth graders from their district to programs at Wolf Ridge, and we're still serving them. And what a cool thing to celebrate that with parents who are now the next generation bringing their children here. That other projects sort of related to that, and some other capital projects that have brought success. The new winter brought, or the demands of the winter brought some needs for new equipment. We have a new skid steer here, and which is critical to moving snow, and had got a lot of work this last year. We just got a brand new skid steer. and with support, which came with support from Lulich Implement in Bayfield, Wisconsin, or near Bayfield. We also have new supplies and equipment for classrooms down at the farm and at Lake Superior that was provided by the Donald Wiesner Foundation and the Eaton family. And I hope you hear this significant theme that we are back. Things are strong, we're good, schools are here, and we're taking care of some really critical needs like roofs and snow removal and things like that, but also taking care of curriculum and classrooms and kids and experiences that they're having out in the woods and on the waters of Wolf Ridge. As I look ahead to next year, that I start to think about, first thinking about summer. And Meredith's got a picture up here of summer camp. And you heard me mention that summer camp was at about 60% of where we should be or where we were pre-pandemic. That summer camp is something we're really now marketing heavily. And on second week of December, registration will open for camp. So please pass the word. Maybe if a grandparent is joining us this evening, consider giving the gift of Wolf Ridge to a child at Christmas this year. And so by Christmas time and pre-Christmas, registration for camp programs will be open, whether families or for youth in our traditional camps. We have some specialty camps as well as wilderness trips. It's one of our critical programs throughout the summer and is really an active where children are, you might say, learning to grow up outdoors, that we get kids who come back year after year after year, some of whom go on to be graduate students many years later. That one of the things I would really ask for your help as well is some of our limiting factors last year for camp were recruiting staff, namely camp counselors. If you know of 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds who might be interested in Wolf Ridge and experience here, maybe considering a career in environmental education, and this is a way to sort of try it out. Often we get undergrads who are really motivated, outdoorsy, science-oriented folks who want to come and work with kids. Please pass the word that we are looking for camp counselors who will work with these kids and help them grow up outdoors. As I look ahead to the year coming, not only am I thinking about summer camps, family programs, etc., but we're also looking already into next school year. And this spring, you may see Wolf Ridge a bit in the news as we're using Prior Lake Savage as the model. In Minnesota led a project at the Minnesota legislature down in St. Paul last spring where three bills were introduced. And those bills were introduced for something called Outdoor School for All. It was a grant program that would be led by the DNR to get every child in Minnesota outdoors for 3 days away from home, the 3 days minimum of learning, such as what occurs at Wolf Ridge. This is a project being led by Wolf Ridge, introduced by Christy Purcell, who represents Northfield and the Cannon Falls area, Wolf Ridge alum. And yet it is something that Wolf Ridge has been working on in our national leadership, that Outdoor School for All passed in Oregon in 2015. And for example, that grant program in Oregon 8 years ago, 30% of the kids were attending programs like this, a similar number to Minnesota. Now Oregon has 80% of their children getting this sort of experience. The impact of the potential is phenomenal. Wolf Ridge is also one of the founders of the committee that's now helped to do this in Washington, in Maine, the state of Maryland. It really is a national movement. And I think COVID has helped to really see the value of turning kids outdoors for learning and getting them reconnected. And that's something that we all care about. If you're on this call tonight, that's something we all share. That besides the leaders in our field sort of concept when it comes to children and learning, that a living building challenge that people may have followed with us, and that we renovated our West Dorm into the Mac Lodge, and it was the first building in the world to be done so at the highest level of sustainability that exists internationally. It remains the only fully certified building in the state of Minnesota. It remains the 30th such building in the world. And that is modeling for children how we can really consider a lifestyle where we can, for example, with the solar I mentioned earlier, we can take more than we give. No, we could, sorry, I reword that. We could give more than we take, that we will produce more photovoltaic power from the sun than we consume in the building. That model that we're providing for children is also continuing to influence all over the world. For example, 2 weeks ago, the Teddy Roosevelt Presidential Library team leaders were here just a couple of weeks ago, who are using Wolfridge as a model. And they are using our Living Building Challenge and how a building can help to set new behaviors for children or for lay people, that is something that isn't just important to folks like us that care about children, but to society as a whole. As I look ahead to the summer ahead, that we have some designs on re-roofing the Summit Lodge, aka the East Dorm, a project that we'll be seeking funding for. We're also, I mentioned the need for counselors, and I'm very excited to tell you all that we have a return of our grandparent, grandchild, grand adventure. Now, folks may know it as Elder Hostel or a variety of names, but grandparent, grandchild programs were a staple of Wolfridge summers for years. And we are returning it this summer. So I'm thrilled. If you think that fits you or know someone, consider bringing your grandchild up for a week of Wolfridge. That again, summer program registration opens about the second week of December. The other thing that I'm very excited about is that winter camp weekends have returned. And so if you look in our programs, that later this winter, we'll have programs for families and kids up here at Wolfridge to do a weekend of outdoor winter adventure, from ice fishing to snowshoeing to skiing, et cetera, et cetera. These are all programs that it really kind of warms my heart that they're back and we're doing well in this arena. I think now it really turns for me to the season, and it feels so appropriate that it's a season of giving thanks. And I want to extend that gratitude to all of you. It's because of donors like you that Wolfridge succeeds. At this time of the year, our gratitude is really extended to all of you. Because of you, the next generation of environmental stewards will be educated and inspired. That you truly make experiential, lifelong learning possible here in the greatest outdoor classroom. That's Wolfridge. Your gifts, your support, as I mentioned earlier, as an example of our leaders of the pack and the state gifts, your gifts, whether annual, state, whatever it may be, have monumental impact on both our future resiliency, but most importantly, on the experiences and the lives of children. And so I want to extend to you, from all of us here at Wolfridge, a tremendous thank you. That we are so grateful. We feel privileged to do the work we do here, and for serving now children from Minnesota, Eastern North Dakota, Northwestern Wisconsin, Northern Illinois. Those are where schools are attending. We've had schools attending from Florida even. That the demand for our programs is rising. And I would say the value and importance of what we do has never been more important than it is today. So thank you all. That I have not been following the chat, but if you have questions, I would love to take them. And I'd love to have a little interaction here, whether live, if you want to raise a hand, Joe and Meredith will watch with me. And we can have a little Q&A and or discussions, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have. Oh, I see more faces now. This is great. So, come on, people. Bring it on. What kind of questions do you have? Or if you've got your own story to tell from Wolfridge the past year. I know some of the people here have been here not long ago in a variety of ways.
There's nothing in the chat, so
all right.
They can either chat or they can unmute and ask themselves if they're so inspired.
We have quite a variety here. We've got Linda, whose father was one of our very first board chairs. We've got former board chairs. We've got current board chairs. We've got board members who were critical to our move from Isabella to Finland. Lindsay Arthur is here, that helped tremendously to enable that move to this campus that I've been talking about. So we've got some really good perspective here on the tremendous history and background of Wolfridge. Michelle.
Well, I guess I'll get this party started. So Lori, who's laughing at me right now, is our new, I just want to introduce Lori Meehan. Wave your hand. She is our very newest board member for Wolf Ridge and already a donor, bless your heart. And she had Phil and I over to her house, and we met some of their best friends who leaned across the table and said, so tell me about Wolf Ridge. So it was such a great opening, right? And we learned that he's an infamous question asker. He's that guy who shows up at all the tours and like dominates, you know, that like hogs the tour guide from everybody else. So he was fun. I was like Wonder Woman, you know, with the questions. But honestly, the first one he asked me is I didn't know the answer to. I didn't have a great answer. And it was what do your graduate student naturalists do for careers after they leave Wolf Ridge? So that's my question.
That's a great question, Shell, and it comes up often. I was having lunch today with a number of grad students. It's actually the subject arose. I will start us off, and Joe's on with us, who had led that program for years. But I will tell you that we know the vast majority, 70% perhaps, stay in education of some sort. And that could be as a college professor, as a fifth grade elementary teacher, it could be as a naturalist at a museum or at a residential center or a nature center. They stay in education. We know about 50% stay in environmental education, and about another 20% or so might be a classroom teacher, but may not specifically be focused in environmental education. And so meaning environmental education, pieces like Wolf Ridge, could be a form of classroom environmental education, could be a professor at a college. But after education, what's interesting is the next most common, we haven't done the data in a while, and the next most common field is into medicine. And I asked there's a few I can think of, Peter Scal, Sean Kemke, that are MDs, I know PAs, and I've asked a number of them, like, why, how did Wolf Ridge play into this pathway? And consistently, the response is very similar, where they describe it's exactly a good physician, good PA does exactly what I did at Wolf Ridge, where I only have a very short amount of time to meet someone, build a relationship, build a sense of trust, establish a level of caring that motivates a person to action. Now, action being, I'm going to go out and be more thoughtful about how I treat the habitat in my backyard, what I support in the way of policy for environment, what I do for fun, or action maybe about my personal health. And that I'm conveying science-based principles to people that I need to increase their level of understanding that motivates them into action. And they said that that's what really good physicians do. And that's what I learned at Wolf Ridge. And so it's very heartwarming that when you think about it, because I can think of, I think we were all nodding, we know when we get those good physicians. And they do that well. And I'm not just another case. There's a relationship that's built, and I trust them. And I'm encouraged and motivated to do the right thing for my health. And then they go into all sorts of stuff. Joe, what can you add? Anything? I'm guessing you and I see this very similar, that I probably answered it similarly to how you would.
Absolutely. So I will answer it just by picturing who it is that I've already connected with this year as I help to teach our graduate students. And so we went on a trip down to Duluth, and we wanted to go see what happens at Nature Preschool. And so Caitlin Erpestedt met us, and she was a naturalist here many years ago. After that, went to Hawk Ridge, and not only the executive director, Janelle Long, but also one of their main bird banders and educators, Margie Menzies, joined us, and both of them were Wolf Ridge alumni. And then we continue on, and I'm going to skip a few different things, but Charlie Pavlicic, who is our newest STEM coordinator at Wolf Ridge, that he was asking a little bit about connections to Voyager Outward Bound. And so I connected him to 3 people who are working there in our leadership positions. And so they were all naturalists here, and that they have told me that the reason that they have that job at Voyager Outward Bound is because we had a really tight connection with them, and we would go visit them and go dog sledding once every winter. And so the crew who were graduate students would see that and go, oh my gosh, I want to do that. And so that, oh my gosh, I want to do that is really key, that I want to be able to create opportunities. Right now, I'm anticipating meeting with Tom Beery, who is a professor and an environmental ed researcher living in Sweden now, and that he's going to be joining our students and sharing his story about what it's like to be an environmental ed researcher. Those are just some quick examples, but I think that between what you heard from Pete and what I shared right there, that gives you kind of a sense. The only thing maybe that I would add now that I think about it is that there are climate change researchers and people who are in law, for example, who are really influencing our collective future in different ways rather than just education, though they are educating as well, right? So they're taking whatever it is that they're doing and educating. So it's really fun. There's a lot of different things. And I said there was only one last thing, but I'll tell you this, is that for the past 20 plus years, as I've been accepting our new students, I always emphasize to them that I'm not looking for people who want to stay in education. I'm looking for people who want to continue educating, and that it doesn't really matter whether you're in education or not. I just want people who want to keep doing that sort of a thing, and that we have so many different backgrounds in our naturalists this year that really represent that. And I think they're going to go just as many different directions. Thanks for letting me share that story.
Tom Berg. You're on mute, Tom.
Nope.
Tom, you're on mute.
Nope. Hey, Tom, you're on mute.
No, sorry about that. I checked in a little bit late, but I think you had already mentioned leaders of the pack about when I got in. But could you mention a little bit, what kind of courses are you teaching these days, and how do you kind of keep that current with today's issues? I was talking to somebody today who's heading off to Dubai next week for the big worldwide environmental conference. And that raised the whole just topic of what are you teaching up there?
Great question, Tom. And it's fun. Every time there's a World Climate Conference or something like that, I get stories from Wolfridge alums who are attending those sorts of events. So I always kind of joyfully anticipate some of the stories that come. Relative to what we're teaching, that I think I'm going to start broad and then bring it down here. That I think everyone knows that environmental ed is the act of bringing science education and connecting it with human beings and social structures and people. And there is the difference. Science education, I may go out into the stream and understand the insects in the stream and the ecosystem that may exist along this bank or down in the water at the bottom and how that may change or how it plays and interacts together, but now bringing humans and our impact onto that stream. What do we do? How can we positively or negatively affect it? There is what we define as environmental education, how humans are part of that system and how our choices can have impact. That now, when you look at all the curriculum that's offered, and vastly, it is very consistently with schools that bring their children, the schools are really building a holistic experience for the child. They're doing science, field science, stream study, for example. They are doing personal growth, ropes course, for example. They're doing a community building activity, team games as example, and they're doing a social sort of oriented values class, which could be climate change or renewable energy or things like that as subject matters. Now, the teacher will choose the actual curriculum, and so that package can look different. A child's experience can be a little different for a Prior Lake school as it could be to Red Lake Tribal School, as it could be to kids from Mankato that were just here as well not long ago. Those were high school students that were here. So the teachers are crafting an experience that integrates well with what they're doing at school. And so we want to partner with them. We really do view them as partners that way. And so they will choose, some schools will choose a very sciencey week. They might have geology and climate change and stream study and Northwoods mammals, or think classes like that with maybe a ropes course thrown in there. When it comes to sort of now bringing it more detailed, Tom, around that idea of climate change and our position in the world. We use the Living Building Challenge as a structure to lean on. And I think of how we live in buildings and the actions we can take on a daily basis that can affect the emissions that are put into the world, moving away from fossil fuels and things like that, are modeled with kids on a day-to-day basis. And then if they select climate change class, are very specifically focused in that subject area. That it's interesting that I always think Minnesotans may take their fresh water for granted because, of course, we're the land of 10,000 lakes. And yet we know that that's not true, that water-based classes are some of our most common selected classes, whether it's on subjects of Lake Superior, it's on subjects of streams or lakes, or in the wintertime. We are a unique institution here that we do something called what we call frozen lake study. It is lake study through the ice. That does not exist. Well, one, of course, climate-wise, it doesn't exist in a lot of the country. But even here in Minnesota, there are very few facilities that do that sort of aquatic-based education, which for children living in Minnesota, it's really turning them on to the fact that the lake doesn't die in the winter. Often that's the perception, because things outside are frozen, that animals couldn't exist, where the lake is very much alive, that ecosystem is rich and full, and my behaviors out on the ice can have drastically positive or negative impacts on that lake once things thaw. And so aquatics remains a common theme, which is so easily tied to human action and positive outcomes. I know the program staff just had a retreat, and that one of the things we're working on is how can we integrate more and more of that lifestyle behavior throughout a Wolfridge experience, including things like climate and energy, and energy in the sense of both conservation, but also in efficiencies and moves to different technologies and things like that. They can all help us, one might say, live a little more lightly on the planet. And that as we are getting school programs back, you can see programming at Lake Superior is returned. Well, now getting things like use of Living Building Challenge and leveraging more and more of those assets here at Wolfridge is a focus for us. That help answer the question, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Joe, anything to add? You were nodding affirmatively, so I'll take that as good.
It's all good. Yeah. And actually, Tom, I think you'd really appreciate this too, is that our Teacher Institute seems to be starting to take off, which is super exciting. Emily is here having that teacher background, having taught in classroom for a number of years before working with us. And that I had suggested to her that one thing that she could really bring to our team is that connection, that deep lived knowledge of what it's like to be in the classroom and help the teachers understand better than I could how they can implement some of maybe what we do at Wolfridge in their teaching. And she has been working with so many different teachers in so many different ways, just presented at the Minnesota Science Teachers Conference and had just a load of people who showed up and who were really excited. She had some teachers from Oak Ridge, and right now I apologize, I can't remember where they are. They're in the Twin Cities area. Everybody's in the Twin Cities area, right? Anyway, that they were here, and none of the teachers except for one of them knew about Wolfridge previous to it. And now they're all talking about they need to have all of their teachers come to Wolfridge for a teacher workshop. And of course, a couple of them are saying, well, what about our kids? So it's lovely. I love that. I just thought I would share that too.
If people didn't pick up on that what Joe described, during COVID, we were working hard to figure out what we could do because residential-based environmental learning wasn't happening. And one of the things that we all saw is that school teachers were, so to speak, kicked outside, and the outdoors suddenly became the safe place. And yet so many teachers were just thrown outside with their children, not really having a plan. Like, set up my chairs and my whiteboard outside. Is that outdoor-based learning? No, that's not. And that it was a skill set Wolfridge clearly has. We've been training educators on outdoor-based skills and methodologies for decades. And suddenly we had a new student population, that being teachers, young and those more seasoned. How can we help them to teach science, math, social studies, writing, English, whatever it may be, using environment as an integrated context for the learning, using the outdoors as an integrated context, not teaching outdoors, using the outdoors as the place for learning or the subject upon which we could rally around as we focus. And what slowly began now is, as Joe described, quickly growing, where we're being asked, and folks like Joe or Emily, who we referenced, are going into classrooms or down to schools, or we've had a few schools that have sent their teachers up to us and helping the faculty develop those skills. One could say the exponential impact of our mission can be pretty easily documented when you start to look at how we can help move that forward across society. Looked like there was a chat that popped up. I don't know who was following that. Was that?
It was, what happens at grandparent camp? What is the grand adventure that we are offering again? And then we'll wrap it up after this question.
Love it. Grand Adventure is a program for grandparents and grandchildren, typically aiming at the grandchild age of about 8 to 14 years old. And often then we are splitting the grandparents and the grandchildren up sometimes into two groups that may be grandchild aged. So the 8, 9, 10-year-olds might be together and the 11 through 14-year-olds are together. But there are programs of learning at Wolf Ridge that are intergenerational, where grandparents are learning together with their grandchildren. But we also have to acknowledge the fact, I'm now of that age, that it's kind of fun to take a break from the grandkids every once in a while. And there are programs just for the grandparents, where the grandparents get together, and the grandparents might be doing wildflowers class or something like that, while the grandchildren are doing more of a physical activity or something like that that's outdoors. It has some of the classics that has things like the ropes course or going canoeing and things like that. Lake Superior class, they'll be going down to Lake Superior campus or to the field station down there. And it will likely have things like stream study and wildflowers or maybe wild edibles. So it's all the classes of Wolf Ridge. It's the residential programming of Wolf Ridge, but it's people who are of that age who are passing, I would say, the theme I see. These are older folks who are looking at their grandchildren 2 generations later, often a bit concerned about the values for the environment or for the outdoors. And it really is a passing of legacy. It's a passing of values. It is extending from one generation to their grandchildren how important it is to be outdoors, to learn outdoors, to be inspired by the outdoors. And the other thing that fundamentally we see occur is, you can imagine, it changes the relationship between grandma or grandpa and grandchild. Because suddenly grandma says, or granddaughter or grandson says, "Oh, I didn't know you were into canoeing. I didn't know you do the ropes course with me. That's so cool." Imagine the power that relationship has just been, it's really been how it's been empowered, that relationship, and it's changed. And so it's so much more than just the science or the learning. It really is the relationship development and memory building that I hear again and again. We now have grandchildren coming who were here as grad students, and their grandparents brought them to programs as a grandchild, and you get to see that perspective perhaps decades later. So it is a week at Wolf Ridge, staying in the dorm with your grandkids, doing all our great activities. There you go. Meredith, conclusion?
Yes, we can wrap it up.
Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this evening. We wanted a quick time to gather, and that to gather in a manner that we can, again, extend a thank you to all of you. That as I mentioned earlier, the stories we're telling, the impact we have in the world would not occur without you and people joining us. You are a part of our team here at Wolf Ridge. With your help and support, we are doing amazing work in the world. We were just meeting with the leadership team, and the word transformative kept coming up. And when people ask me, what's a word that can summarize a learning experience at Wolf Ridge? To me, the word transformative is the word. And whether it's between grandparent and grandchild, between 2 fifth grade students, between the teacher and the student, whoever it may be, that what you do for those kids, you're not doing it for us, you're doing it for those kids and for those families, I hope you take that to heart of how grateful we are, but really how grateful they are. That this evening was our first time doing a State of the Ridge fireside chat to just keep you a little connected and updated with how things are going, from a new skid steer to our return to Lake Superior Field Station, or whatever it may be. That we wanted you to have some connections, see a few pictures and images, and I hope take away with you this evening a feeling of pride for what you're enabling here at Wolf Ridge. It's the season. I thank you for your support, extending and passing the word about Wolf Ridge and the need for others to help join in our community of donors and supporters. It's our end of the year that you'll be seeing calendar year-end appeals. You are all already significant donors. So what I'm hoping is you'll just help draw more people into our community here. And again, remember that summer camp registration for families and youth programs opens up the second week of December. With that, I will conclude. I wish you all a very family-filled weekend of love and some good feasting and a good Thanksgiving or whatever holidays you may be celebrating in the coming months ahead. Happy holidays to all. Thank you.